It's day 111 of 118 days with the Tudors, and today we're thinking about 1595, and this is the story of the life and death of Robert Southall, a priest, a poet and a martyr. So a few videos back we had a think about the use of priest hides or priest holes in England after the law really ramped up for particularly Catholic priests who weren't allowed to step foot in England if they were coming from abroad, or offer mass or try and convince people to be Catholics. So Catholic priests spent a lot of time having to be hidden away and protected. So this is the story of one particular man who was executed in 1595. So born in 1561, Robert Southall was the third son of Richard Southall. And in 1576, he travelled abroad. He travelled to France to study theology and philosophy and become a priest. He joined the Jesuit school there, and in 1578 he travelled to Rome and he wanted to join the Society of Jesus, and he was initially refused, but he made his plea and eventually they relented and let him in. So that's where he's continuing to study philosophy and theology and essentially learning to become a Jesuit priest. So he wants to become a Catholic priest that can come back to England and be a minister for his family, administer mass and kind of convince people to join the Catholic religion. He spends a bit of time there working as a rector and also as a teacher. Then in 1586, he and his pal Henry Garnet, who are both now Jesuit priests, make their way back into England. But don't forget, straight away, they need to be protected. They have a bit of a difficult journey. So they leave in May. They eventually get to England in July. So it takes them a couple of months to travel that distance from Rome to England. And supposedly he meets with the only active Catholic priest in England at that time, William Weston. Well, he reports he's the only active one anyway. And he travels with him into the country. Now, if we think about the dates, so this is 1586, the country are in the absolute middle of trying to sort out the Babington plot and Mary Queen of Scots. They're pretty well occupied, but obviously concerns are growing about Catholicism. He suggests that in that year, 1586, he spends 4 hours behind some wooden panelling while a priest hunter searches the house for him, but he wasn't found on that occasion. And it's this time that he begins to start writing some poetry, and he writes something called an epistle to his father, which is a real plea for his father and his family to come back from Protestantism and come back to Catholicism. His father doesn't listen though. So Anne Howard, who is the Countess of Arundel, offers him some protection, allows him a house to stay in, and within that he actually sets up his own printing press. Now what I really actually quite like about this from my nerdy thesis research point of view is quite often you get this myth that it was the Protestants that favoured the printing press and Catholics liked to just write everything the old-fashioned way by hand. So with this secret Catholic priest setting up his own printing press, I like that that's kind of dispelling that myth a little bit. So while he's there, he acts as her chaplain, her confessor. He even creates a book just for her called A Short Rule of a Good Life, and apparently she uses that her whole life to guide her on her spiritual journey. In 1591, around that time, William Cecil, so Elizabeth's right-hand man, has produced an anti-Jesuit publication. So in 1591, Robert Southall prints something in response to this called A Humble Supplication to Her Majesty. So we're arguing against this thing that Cecil's written, but Cecil was pretty angry. Obviously Cecil's on the lookout for him now, and he actually does manage to evade capture until the June of 1592, so he's doing quite well. Eventually he is captured in that June of 1592, and initially he refuses to acknowledge that he's even a priest. He won't say anything. He is then tortured and taken to the Tower. Now he was actually kept in solitary confinement for 2.5 years. The exception being, during that time, he experienced 10 rounds of torture. However, he never did actually give up any names of any other Jesuit priests at this time. When it came to his eventual trial 2.5 years later, 1595 that we're looking at today, he was very weak and very ill, and found it difficult to answer questions. Now, the initial priest hunter who'd found him found this really frustrating. For some reason, it made him really cross. He didn't like his answers or lack of answers, and he had to be physically restrained from trying to get to him. He was found guilty of high treason and hanged, drawn and quartered. He did eventually admit that he was a Jesuit priest, that he had returned with with the hope of helping his family return to Catholicism. However, as I said, he never revealed the name of the man that he travelled back with or any of the people that helped him. And he was then canonised, so he was made a saint in 1970. So there you go, that was 1595, a kind of real life example of somebody using the different priest hides that we talked about a few days ago, years ago, however you want to look at it. I'll see you tomorrow for 1596, when we're going to be talking about the Queen's youngest favourite and thinking about his rise to fame. So we're going to be thinking about Robert Devereux, the second Earl of Essex. I will see you then.